Joining us now, NewsNation political contributor and political scientist at Princeton University, Lauren Wright. Lauren, I think part of what Senator Tillis is getting at is how complex this bill is. I mean, there are lots and lots of layers. I mean, to the point that there are some lawmakers that probably haven't even read parts of it. Talk about the logistics of legislating something like this and simplify it for those at home watching.
Well, you're absolutely right. The best chance of having any pieces of this legislation passed are to pack them together in a giant bill, which is what Republicans have done. The tough part of that is the political fallout because many fiscal hawks, both in the House and the Senate, have said we shouldn't do this anymore. We should do piecemeal legislation that's transparent and readable and that we have time to digest. And so there's that piece that's really tough for Republicans to sell the message on. And then there's the spending projections, which you just mentioned, over $3 trillion. And so even though I do believe this bill will pass, and maybe Republicans will lose 2 or 3 senators, I do think it gets passed, but it does require them to have to swallow some of the pieces of the fiscal responsibility and the logistics that they've fought against in the past, and that's tough.
And for those who have followed it closely, you hear about social programs, Medicare, and cuts to those programs, and then you hear that there will be 12 million people that are uninsured. Are those numbers right? And what is the expectation around some of these programs and cuts?
Well, those are projections, and we don't really know if they're right because it depends on the population in each state that relies on these programs that are being cut, and depends on the parts of the programs being cut. Republicans have said they're introducing cuts to Medicaid, for instance, just like Obama proposed in many of his second term budgets, that cut overhead and cut waste and cut inaccurate payments by mistake to individuals. So they should really demonstrate that. They should provide the evidence for it, and it might be a little bit easier. But no matter how you slice it, when you're cutting these very popular programs, that is a hill that Republicans have to overcome, even though they're trying to find the waste, fraud, and abuse, as the president likes to say.
Who stands to benefit the most from the passage of this bill in terms of the American public?
Well, the taxpayers, 80% of which received a tax cut of some way, shape, or form under the Trump tax cuts. The continuation of that is a real benefit to individuals at every part of the income ladder and to small businesses. And that's, of course, the most popular talking point among Republicans. They're also projecting major growth from this as a result, but that's very hard to demonstrate. Just like the impact of the cuts, the potential growth is tough to demonstrate.
What about the implications and the impact on Republicans who don't agree with the president? We've seen this happen before and how he reacts. Tom Tillis is the latest, saying that he won't seek re-election. How is the party changing under Trump's leadership?
I don't think it's changed as much as analysts often say. Republicans will ultimately go along with this. It will be a feather in their cap. It will be very good for President Trump to mention that he can legislate successfully and he can get things passed and he can get things done. I will point out that for Democrats saying we're living under a fascist dictatorship and authoritarianism, this is very much the Senate as we've seen, normal business. Same with the House. This is the same process we've seen for generations. Trump is restricted by that branch of government and will continue to be so. But I do think he'll ultimately have the success there, Marni.
All right. Dr. Lauren Wright, as always, thank you. Nice to see
Thank
you.
you.